Greetings, everyone. The question is, will Jamaicans sit back, complacent, and allow first world or expansionist companies to come there and destroy their children's future? Question to mull over until I go through this. I have done some research, and so I'll be using my notes to convey the message I have today. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is start with passage, not passage, stanza, I guess, of Rodney Price, aka Bounty Killer's new song. It says, "Look there, them not set no opportunity for youths with ambition. Them blame we for the condition. Nothing no left for the native of the land. We go rat if them sell Trelawney to Chinaman." In the end of this video, I'm going to put the link to this new song. It says, "We're going to rat if them sell Trelawney to Chinaman." Okay, so we're going to put that off for now. And what I'm going to do is educate you about the devastating effects of pollution in China. And I'm using these stats to then segue into the questions at the end of this video. So I want you to know that there are 20 cities in the world that are considered to be the worst polluted. The worst polluted states in the world, 16 of them come from China. China is not only the country that is dealing with pollution problems, but my research is focusing on them today because this topic that I'm dealing with has to do with China's involvement in Jamaica, their expansionist movements, and their development in Jamaica. And if you are not doing your research and not understanding what you're getting into, and this is what I'm saying here from the onset, that the Jamaican government and all the individuals who have the power to sign documents, I don't know if they don't have people doing research, but we need to do the research because government has never, in Jamaica that is, has never had the best interest of our people. Few and far between. And with the current government as it stands, doesn't seem to be concerned about just the regular citizen. He's made it very obvious that he's about creating wealth, and you're creating wealth for whom? Not the regular people, but for people who are already very wealthy, and hoping, I guess, that there'll be a trickle-down effect. But that's not good enough for our people. And we're not just fighting for our freedom. We're not just fighting for the right, or human rights, that is. We're fighting for the legacy for our children and our children's children. That's the attitude one has to have. And every developed country in the world, they have never ever focused on just that generation. They have always focused on generations to come. So in the building and the growing and creation of wealth, it's never just for these individuals that are here now. I used to work for a bank, and I was one of two signers at that bank, signing certificates that were good. They would be ready or mature in 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. Had people saying, I'm saving this for my great grandchildren, and they know they wouldn't be around, great grandkids. And I think that's what we lack in our societies. We don't look beyond. So you'll hear, why do you think the Olympics? People bid for the Olympics now for the next 10 years. Because they have vision. And because we have no vision, we perish. Okay? So we're talking about pollution, and we're saying that in 20 of the world's worst polluted cities, 16 of those places come from China. Like everywhere else, factories are built. A overwhelming amount of factories are in China. And these factories spew toxic chemicals, poison land, poison water. Let's look at the city of Linfen. I think it's called Linfen. Primarily, they depend on coal mining today, but that wasn't always the case. 20 years ago, Linfen was focused on agriculture, but today its primary focus is on coal mining. And the World Bank has said that Linfen was the most polluted place on earth. Now, in the expansionist movement and in the quest for world power and dominance, China has found a way to capitalize on other person's needs. So there is a need for cheap labor and there's a need for cheap resources. And so, China has positioned themselves to make sure that they're providing these things. A lot of companies from North America and other places in the world have, put their companies offshore, if you wish, getting individuals in China to make things for them. People have lost jobs in the United States, for example, because of some of these outsources or whatever you call it. So there's a need, and I'm not having a problem with China fulfilling that need. But because of all these factories that have gone up, China happens to be one of the most polluted places, have some of the most polluted places in the world, on the earth. Now, Shanxi province, and excuse me if I don't pronounce it properly, it's called Shan, Shanxi province, as the largest coal industry in China. They have not found a way to produce coal without pollution. So if you do your research, you'll see how, these coal mining companies are running, how it is really doing a damage on China's pollution problems, or their environment for that matter. Well, production in China is the main goal, so serious environment problem is not at the top of their priority. Though I'm not going to say that they're not making efforts to try to deal with some of the pollution problems they're having, but it's not a priority. 70% of Chinese cities cannot meet their air quality. The air quality is so poor because a large emphasis is placed on burning of coal. COAL, coal. So let's talk about the effects of mining on Chinese citizens. Their illnesses due to pesticide exposure and pollution from coal mining. For example, there's a lot of lung problems, stomach and lung cancer. These are just to name a few. Waste from factories, which is not just common to China, it's everywhere. But for example, smell of sulfur dioxide contributes to bad lungs, heart failure, poison in the air leads to health problems like emphysema. So a lot of people in China suffer from emphysema. The air is so polluted that individuals are saying that, they don't want to go outside. And in the winter, it is horrible. They actually prefer the summer months because the air is so toxic. Now, as I said before, 20 years ago, the city of Linfen was a thriving, fruitful city with agriculture as their focus. But when they shifted to coal mining, all the problems that come with that, and pollution being the number one thing, to where the World Bank is saying they're the most polluted city in the earth, if I may repeat myself. Now, when I point out these environmental concerns in China, it's not to say that there are other big cities or big first world countries that are not struggling with these issues as well. I have to be fair, and I have to list that the global demand for cheap labor, as I said earlier, and the goods, this need for goods and cheap goods has contributed to this terrible environmental concern that we're discussing here. China leads the world in its expansion goals and efforts, dominating world market because they managed to strategically place themselves in all the developing economies and compete with other world-class economies as powerful agents in a changing economic warfare. And whether you want to agree that it's a warfare or not, it is. When it comes to global, positioning yourself globally to maintain world dominance and power and all that, it has to be warfare. And some people will use any means necessary. And I think that's the case with China today. China is not playing softball. They're powerful. They play the game, outwit, outsmart, outplay, and they don't care who gets lost in the shuffle. They don't. Okay? In 2008, when they hosted the Olympics, it is alleged, and I'm going to say alleged, it's alleged that they manipulated the weather where it was raining everywhere else, and in the new stadium that they built for the 2008 Olympics, it didn't rain there because they were said to have sent off torpedoes in the air that prevented rain from falling. So let's not underestimate China and their efforts in maintaining world dominance and their efforts in showing we can do this and we can do it better than anybody. Let's recognize that these serious pollution problems, not just there but in the world, is one of the reasons why we are suffering ill health, not just in our food but in the environment as well. So for instance, in China, for example, the pollution is so great that there are days when planes cannot land. Can you imagine that? And do me a favor and go online and just look at pollution problems and look at the pictures on Google. You know, days it's so cloudy that planes cannot land. It's difficult to buy cars in China because restrictions are placed on drivers, i.e. drivers are restricted to drive certain days of the week, and it is based on your, for example, the last 4 digits of your license plate number. So everyone can drive on the weekend, but they try to restrict that because of the pollution problem. So it's not that they're not addressing it or not paying close attention to it. It's not really a priority though. Well, production is. 1.6 million persons die every year due to pollution in China. Okay? 1.6 million people die from pollution in China. Just listen to those numbers. They're staggering. Now let's shift our focus onto Jamaica, the Cockpit country to be precise. The Cockpit country comprises of 6 parishes: St. James, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Clarendon. These areas in Jamaica should be preserved, should be defended, should be protected at all costs. Now, in the Cockpit country, we've got 1,500 plant species. 65 is only found in Jamaica. So these 65 plants are directly endemic to Jamaica. 79 species of birds, 28 are endemic to Jamaica. Should the Jamaican government allow bauxite mining in these parts, in the Cockpit country, with all that I have said? Okay, the people of Albert Hall in Trelawney are fighting to prevent mining in maroon territory and the watershed. Now, when you say maroon, I mean, these are supposed to be preserved areas, preserved sites. I mean, our people back in history fought for their freedom and have continued to fight to maintain that legacy, that part of our African heritage that I'm very proud of and that I think any means necessary to protect. What I want to say here, and I think I gave enough facts and you can do some research on your own. Rodney Price, as known as Bounty Killer, has released his new song addressing the issue about our governments alleging to invite China to come to these areas and mine. And based on what I've shown or indicating this video, the dangers of pollution in China themselves. So it's not like Chinese are going to Jamaica and saying, oh, I'm going there and I'm going to pollute this place to kill these people. It's not like it's a personal thing. They don't care. They do the same thing in their own country. They've done the same thing in their own country. They've weighed the benefits. I'm sure they've weighed the pros and cons. And being concerned about pollution is lower on the scale of interest to them. So do you think that if they go to Jamaica, they're going to be concerned about our people dying, about our children having all these diseases? We know the effects of coal mining, and we're saying, regardless of what leaders are saying, it's beneficial to them, it's not beneficial to our people. Because let's keep this real. The typical government person, at the end of the day, when they retire, do not plan to live in Jamaica. And I'm guaranteeing you that most of these politicians' children do not live in Jamaica. And if they do live in Jamaica, at the end of their time, they will be living in other foreign countries. So they don't care if Jamaica become polluted. So you can't wait for them, because more than likely they won't be living there. And if they do develop these problems, they can go overseas for medical attention. They just don't care. You can't rely on them caring. But the thing is, as Queen Ifrica and Bounty Killer and Vegas is coming forward to say, you know, let's protect our country. And hopefully it's not a 9-day thing. Hopefully they understand the power that they wield, and that they have fans that are faithful and fans that will listen to them. I'm hoping that they're going to appeal to their fans and not just use the music. The music is all great, but the way it was done by our great leaders in the past is to go to the people, rally the people to work. Just like they rallied the people with the needs, and they got rid of that. They have the power to ensure that we keep our cockpit country, you know, clean and pure, and preserve our watersheds. It can't always be about money and creating wealth. For whom? Because when we think about wealth, it's not just about finances or just money. It's about health. It's about health. And so I endorse what Bounty Killer is doing and what he has said in his new song. I'm going to put that at the end of this video. And I'm appealing to the other artists to come forward and to defend it. To defend it. Our ancestors didn't just die and fight as they did just so we can roll back and invite some new master to come and destroy our people. They do what they need to do to grow and to extend their reach. I have no problems with that. But when they're coming into your territory and you're being affected by it, health-wise and otherwise, I say it's time to rally the people to the cause. It's time for us to stand up and say, hey, excuse me, no more, enough. And when it comes to your life, if you don't value your life and you're going to allow another person to just come to gain wealth, because remember, this wealth that is being built are gathered in our country, are from our country. It's not there to benefit you. It's to siphon, to develop China. So China come there to develop. I got no issues. They were invited there. You must make sure that their development does not encroach on your human rights and your freedom and your life. Stay blessed, everyone.